Very quiet. Welcome, Internet, to TIGRadio number 26.
Yay.
We're on the home stretch to 50. Ben,
Awesome.
Aren't we
It's a
excited?
big 50 coming up.
So at the top of the hour, a couple of TIGRadio notes. If you have any guest suggestions or if you would like to guest interview a second person as a guest, just email us. Yeah, you can email us at hello@tigradio.com, or you can contact us via the Twitters or the Facebooks, twitter.com/TIGRadio, facebook.com/TIGRadio. One more announcement. The TIG Jam registration is now open. If you go to tigjam.com, you can purchase tickets. We're going to limit them, I think, to 50 people because of space reasons. So make sure you work out your travel soon. That is Halloween weekend at Hacker Dojo in the Bay Area.
Do you by any chance know how many have been purchased already?
It's actually listed on the website.
Okay, good.
I think it's like maybe 10 or 15 right now.
Left?
No, total.
Oh, okay.
But I'm sure people are just
Figuring shit out.
figuring travel and stuff
Yeah.
out. There's also IndieCade's coming up. PAX is coming up. Orca Jam has gotten up to like 40 or so registrations. A lot of stuff coming up.
Yeah.
But on the hour with us today, we have any talk of sleeping arrangements at TIG Jam. Sleeping arrangements, there's not a lot of people in the area that have houses. It's kind of not a very residential area. So the best bet is probably to get a hotel room and share it with somebody.
Well, and usually there's a thread on TIG Source too around the time that the preparations are getting revved up, and people offer out rooms if they have them. So check out TIG Source.
Yeah, I've got a thread link to from tigjam.com. So anyone there local that has space will offer it, and then otherwise just coordinate and cram, 6-7 people into a hotel room.
Yeah, or into a car. Or a dumpster
Or
with blankets.
I love dumpster sleeping. So on the hour with us today, we have Sean Murray from Hello Games, makers of Joe Danger. Welcome, Sean.
Hello.
So just for people that aren't aware of who you are, just give, I guess, a quick introduction about who you are, who Hello Games is, and what Joe Danger is all about.
Yeah, Hello Games is like a tiny little studio, like any studio in the UK. We set up, I guess, nearly 2 years ago now, which is crazy when I think about it. Like 2 years is a long time. There's just like 4 of us. We all kind of work on like, big games in, I guess, proper normal games industry or whatever, straight out of uni. But it kind of wasn't for us, so we broke away. We were all friends, and we just really wanted to make a game. And that game turned out to be Joe Danger, which is like, it's kind of like, I guess, a callback to games that we loved when we were kids, stuff that we grew up with. Kind of Sega and Nintendo are like really big names for us, I guess, during a certain period anyway. And so it's kind of like a callback to those games. We tried to make a kind of game that we would have been really excited about, and still are excited about. And it's about a tiny little dude on a motorbike. He's a stuntman doing like, silly stunts and crashing a lot. It's supposed to be kind of quite a fun game, is I guess what we're going for.
Rad. Do you have any way of turning up your microphone real quick? The chat is complaining that you're quite quiet. You're audible to us, but let me see if I can turn you up.
Cool, how's that?
I think it's louder. Chat, is that louder?
Yeah, that ain't good.
Okay, yeah, that sounds better.
Okay, good.
So I'm actually curious, now that you guys have successfully launched a game, and by all accounts, it seems quite successful in the marketplace, do you plan to stay 4 people? Do you plan to get larger? Or are you kind of ideal at the 4?
I guess most indies know this problem where making games with a really small group is really good fun. It's really intense, but it's like the perfect kind of way to be creative, I think, is with a really small team. But it's also really, really difficult. You know, like the smaller you are, the harder it is. And time, I guess we were in that situation where if something had happened to one of us, like, we just would have been totally fucked, you know. We were constantly aware of that. Like, if one of us got ill or something, then the whole game just slips, and, you know, you're just lost without that person. Everyone's totally critical, and it's really difficult, you know. Like, we just were in that. We went kind of 2 years without, you know, basically having a holiday or sleeping or, you know, things like that. So I think we definitely need a few more people, and we're kind of looking for people now, but we kind of want to be still a really small studio, you know. We always want it to be, I guess it depends on the type of game we make, you know. The games that we plan to make next kind of necessitate having a few more people, but we're kind of trying to hire the minimum number of people we can have to make the games that we want to make, you know, for it to be the smallest possible team that we can have to make that game, if that makes sense. You know?
Yeah. What was the role breakdown for your 4 people? I know you only had 1 artist, which is kind of amazing to me.
Grant is pretty amazing like that. He kind of built a lot of the levels as well. It's kind of insane. The other 3 of us are programmers. You know, that's what we had been before. But I guess all of us started doing a lot more, breaking away and doing this. So I guess I ended up doing a bit more of the kind of businessy side of things, and maybe like, I guess, PR or whatever, you know, kind of stuff. Like, naturally somebody just has to do that. And then once you do it once, everyone goes, oh, you've done that before, you keep doing that. And then one of the other guys, Dave, is kind of more into the gameplay side of things. So he's kind of one of the main designers on it, even though we're all designers on the game, you know. He's just kind of got that eye for detail in gameplay. And then Brian is, I guess, naturally a bit more technical, you know. So he kind of falls into that role. But basically, we all do little bits of everything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We all kind of plumb in little bits of art. All the bad art is us, programmers, and then all the good art is Grant.
So you actually shipped
technical as well.
You actually shipped the game with basically programmer art?
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
Well, it's hard to tell. I mean, there's enough art direction there that you wouldn't really guess that, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, when we started out, you know, Grant hadn't joined us because he was in another company, and we were trying to convince him to leave, and that this was a really smart idea, you know, basically lying to him and telling him that it would be, you know, really easy and brilliant. And he, you know, before that, we all kind of learned, you know, Max and Maya and that kind of thing, and just started making it ourselves. So there's still like little bits and pieces, just random pieces that you'll occasionally drive past and just go, oh wait, did that make it into the game? Oh, okay. You know?
Right.
So I'm actually quite curious about, you posted on, I think it was your blog a while ago, the video of the very, very early playtest version, which is like the single wheel with like the gray background. And I'm really curious how you guys discussed that internally. So like if one of you had played this playtest and you didn't like the way it felt, like how would you communicate that to, I guess, Dave? Like what kind of language did you guys use to elucidate and like, I didn't like the way it felt because, you know, X, Y, and Z. I'm really curious how those kind of field discussions went down.
Yeah, it's like, it's a really strange thing discussing games, you know, because I find most people just talk in like derivative terms, like it needs to feel a bit more like this game, that game, or whatever, you know, and it's really, if you don't use that, then it's really difficult to actually talk about. Like you saw, that was just basically a wheel. It was exactly our game, but playable with like a single wheel and no art or whatever. And you find yourself either saying like, can it be a bit more like blah, this game, you know, or kind of saying, I want it to be a bit more whooshy or a bit more sticky or whatever, you know, like there's not good words for that kind of feel.
Yeah.
And we didn't really tend to do that. That was the cool thing about having this prototype, was that it was so simple that all of us just tended to like talk and prove things by just making them, you know what I mean? Like making something, if you feel that it should be faster, or you feel that something's going to be more fun if it's a bit sticky or a bit slick or whatever, we tended to just get in there and kind of change all the values and mess about ourselves and kind of prove it in that way. And we all kind of have quite a close bond, like we've worked together before. So there's this weird thing where we tend to agree when we see something that's right, if you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we'll draw the same conclusion. It doesn't tend to be like massive. There's massive arguments if you try and talk about it, you know, because everyone's like, no, I don't think it should be faster or whatever. But then when you sit and play something, we all tend to just like instantly get on the same page.
So did you guys find that the game was trending towards more easy or more difficult? Like, were the early versions of the game harder to play and you kept saying we need to make it easier and more accessible, or was it kind of the other way around?
I guess, like, I don't think in those terms. Like, accessibility is like, you know, it has come to mean there's other things now, you know, like as in accessibility to most people now means kind of like pop tap, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like casual and stuff like that. And I think that's totally wrong. Like, I think games should kind of empower you, you know, and I think that, say, like something like Mario, anyone can pick it up and it's accessible, but like that game is difficult, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like incredibly difficult. And even things like Pac-Man, you know, like Pac-Man is such an incredibly difficult game, but like it's totally accessible as well, right? And anyone can play it. And that's kind of the genius of like arcade games to me.
Yeah.
So I love that. And I really, I mean, I think that Joe Danger's been this really like personal project for us, because that's 100% what we're all into. You know, is that kind of arcadey feel, something that you walk past, you know, and you just see it and you're like, yeah, I've got to play that.
Yeah.
You know,
It's definitely gorgeous.
And you want to just get in and get a feel for it, and you know that you can instantly pick up a controller and play it. You know, like, I'm not saying that Joe Danger is all of these things, but this is what we're going for, and this is like what really appeals to us about arcade games. You know, they're accessible, but they're deep. You know, so when we had that like prototype, it was always about that. Like, how do you make the player more empowered so they can put that wheel wherever they want, so this game feels totally playable? And then the difficulty kind of comes from making the levels difficult and making, you know, challenging the player, rather than the controls themselves are difficult, you know, or the game is inaccessible, or it's really, you know, you want people to just be able to do amazing things right from the start and feel totally in control, and then kind of push them. So that was the whole point of that prototype, was like, let's make this really, really playable.
Yeah.
You know, like anyone can play it.
How long did you guys spend in that prototype?
I think it was about, like, we had that up and running probably week 1 kind of thing.
Okay.
You know, so like it was as you saw it, week 1, and then we spent like the next kind of 5 weeks just at that stage, you know. And we had the kind of the edit mode that you've got in our game where you can build levels and stuff. We put that in at that stage as well. So we just started making the levels as we were building the game, you know. So you instantly start to get a feel for things like, I'd like the ramps to be like this, I'd like spacing to be like this, I'd like to try these kind of obstacles and that kind of thing. And you're building up what's kind of like a platforming game, but you're changing all the levels and all the speeds and all the values at that stage when it's nothing kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So do you guys actually have like a week one prototype of your next project, or are you doing the same kind of let's get a really super early artless prototype going of how the game will actually feel?
Uh, I guess like yeah, I mean, this is absolutely the way that we do things, you know, and we would stay in that phase like, you know, forever. Like there's no defined schedules or anything like that. Like
Yeah,
we sit there and play about with ideas and just, you know, with something, yeah, absolutely as simple as that. You know, the art isn't important at that stage. You know, you're building the character, you're building like the theme, the everything of the game around the gameplay. I think that's kind of how we approach things. So we start at that total prototype stage. That's where we're at.
Did you guys end up with other prototypes for different games during Joe Danger? Was it like, hey, let's make a game like this, or was it always let's make a game exactly about like motorcycling kind of a feel? Did you guys ever try other
Kind
avenues?
of like it's kind of a bit weird. So we we like broke away and we wanted to do our own thing and we were like really passionate about it, you know. And we kind of got together and we'd been talking about this for so long, like the type of game we're gonna make, right? But we never said what the actual game was. You know what I mean? Like we were like, you know, arcade games, like, you know, the kind of classic games, games with kind of charm and personality. We'd always talked about that. But we'd never said like this game, this idea, you know, or whatever. So we just kind of got together and we were all in a room for like the first time, and just like bashing ideas back and forth. And Grant hadn't like joined us full time at the time, but he just came in and he had this like box of toys, you know, that he brought in from like his parents' attic, and just like poured them all out, and we just started mocking up game ideas with those. And we had like, you know, that Evil Knievel stunt toy, you know, that like wind up toy that you kind of wind up and let go and you build ramps for or whatever. We just started playing with that and like properly playing with it, you know what I mean? Like everything else, we were just mocking out ideas with it. We had like He-Man or whatever, and we're going, you know, this is going to make an awesome third-person adventure or whatever with He-Man in your hands, you know. But this was like, we're properly playing with this. Let's try and fire it out a window or whatever. And that's kind of where it came from.
Okay.
So we had, I guess at that stage, a whole bunch of other ideas around that same area, you know, similar types of games, but in whole other different tangents. But this one just really stuck, you know. But I guess our other, you know, what we go on to, a lot of that is coming back to those, like that period of just playing with toys and kind of messing about with ideas. You know, that was actually weirdly like really powerful, something we always talk about.
Mm. Rad.
Is Joe Danger American or English?
I think he's American. Yeah, I think he's kind of got to be. I don't think British people really, you know, are stuntmen. It's not really a thing that they do, I don't think, you know. I think that's more of an American thing.
Okay. Did all four of you guys come from big industry jobs?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, well, it depends what you mean by like big industry jobs, but we all worked in like, you know, the industry before that. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I was at like Criterion and then EA, and Ryan, one of the guys I work with, was there as well, and we kind of joined around the same week, you know. And Grant, our artist, he was at Sumo. We do a lot of the like Sega games, you know, and that's definitely his style. And Dave was at like Climax and Kuju, and we all kind of, but we'd all ended up working together on different projects and stuff, so we all kind of knew each other. Dave and Grant went to school together, so they know each other from like way back, like since they were like 12 years old or whatever. And
Okay,
kind of been making games and like Doom levels and stuff like that since then, kind of thing.
Okay, so there's serious history between the group.
Yeah. I mean, we're a bit weird. Like, people always comment on it. Like when we're out, we've become a bit strange because we work in like the tiniest office you can imagine, where like it's pretty much impossible for us to sit in our office and not be touching. It's that kind of like you can't get an elbow away from the person beside you.
Yeah.
So we're like, some sort of weird hive mind now.
Yeah, I saw that video you guys posted of like the sort of fast motion of an entire day's of work, and it was just the one room with like TV for the testing, and then just a bunch of computers. And at any given point, someone was always testing the game and just otherwise programming. And it was a little bit horrifying. It's like, wow, you guys need your office.
We actually just moved office, which is amazing. We couldn't be having this conversation if we hadn't, because our internet was really, really terrible. Show Danger was made with us swapping USB sticks and stuff like that.
Jesus.
Wow.
You guys are animals.
So we now have internet. It's amazing. But we're still quite close together.
What do you have to say to anyone at not so much independent game jobs that are kind of on the fence? They're thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like, if they're thinking about it, then maybe they're, not that happy. Like, I know loads of people who are happy with their jobs or whatever. But I also know loads of people who only joined the games industry because what they really wanted to do was make games for themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
That's kind of who I was. And like, after a while, you kind of become comfortable, and it's really becomes difficult to break away. So people who are like, it's the worst thing in the world, basically, to work in a job where you're totally unhappy. Like, even worse if it's games. Like, I could be, a greengrocer or a dentist or something and be unhappy. But if I'm working in games and which I love, you know what I mean? And I'm working on something I don't like I am so incredibly, and I've been there, and it's incredibly, tough and depressing. And for me, because it's such a passion and it's something that I do in my spare time and stuff, I'm kind of like, I get down, you know what I mean? It affects everything, not just my job. So
Yep.
I think, we made a jump, and we all kind of felt a bit like that. But it was tough. You know what I mean? Like, anyone who's making games on their own knows that. Like, it's really, really difficult. So I think you've kind of almost got to be kind of unhappy, like really unhappy where you are, and that any alternative is better, right? And that you're going to rely on your passion to kind of carry you through. I think that, like, the people that I meet that say, I'm thinking of leaving where I am or whatever, I always just kind of say, like, be really sure, like, be like incredibly sure that that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
That you really are unhappy where you are, rather than just, like, I'm working on a crap game and it'll be over in a month or whatever. Because it's really tough, but if you have the passion for it, like, it is so rewarding, Like, that's the other thing that everyone who's making games on their own knows, right? Is that when you get to see someone else play your game and you've made it yourself, like, that's amazing. And you don't get that, like, you just totally don't get that as an industry job. Like, I worked on games that sold like millions, and I never got to see someone actually play them, which is weird.
Huh. Did you guys have any spouses or like families when you made the jump, or was it more just kind of you solo, and you didn't really have to convince a wife or a girlfriend that no, this will actually pay the bills, don't worry about it, kind of a deal?
No, well, two of the guys are single, and two of us are like have other house and stuff, and like, it's right, it's really difficult. Like, I've had some crazy conversations, and we got to stage during Joe Danger where we had kind of not announced it, and showed it to like loads of publishers and stuff like that, because we thought that that's what you should do,
Yeah.
And I'd had a really hard time, like had a horrible time, right? And kind of just gotten turned down by just about everyone, and it's really hard to explain to someone like that's close to you, like family or girlfriend or whatever, that what you're doing is still valid and it's worthwhile and not a like stupid idea, especially if they're not maybe into games as what you are. It's kind of hard to explain that this is still a good idea. So I've had a lot of those conversations. It's really tough.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, there's always the, hey, why don't you get a real job? I mean, I even get some of that from my mom still. I'm like, Mom, the company's 7 years old. Like, leave me alone. So, I mean, someone actually asked earlier in the chat, and I guess it's my duty as a radio host to bring it up, but they're asking about why you went with PSN and not XBLA, and I guess there's that you were quoted as, and I believe this is the quote, that Microsoft should eat a bucket of dicks. But I might have made that up to be sensationalist. It was actually that XBLA was a slaughterhouse, was the quote from, I guess.
I wish I had said that now. Dicks it has a ring to it, that Slaughterhouse doesn't. It's definitely a better headline. I mean, like, basically, here's what happened in my life. I got asked to talk at Develop, which is this conference, and I gave, a talk, which I kind of hate doing, because as you could probably tell listening to me, I'm not used to like talking in public.
You're a better speaker than we are. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
I'm a programmer, and like, not that there's a stereotype on programmers or whatever, but I am of that ilk that I would rather be programming than talking in public for sure, So I gave this talk, and it was like totally fine, and it went like all right, and I was just really happy to have it over with. And I was trying to just, give an okay talk, whatever. We had the questions at the end, and like the very last thing I said was that XBLA was a slaughterhouse, and kind of didn't even really think about it. Walked out of this talk, and like, people were just handing me their iPhones, just going, "Oh, you're on Games Industry Biz," stuff like that. Like Destructoid and Kotaku. So I've kind of learned to keep my mouth shut. But like, I think, that those kind of sites pick up on that, and it's like interesting. But kind of the main point of that talk that I was giving is actually that, like, I think the first thing I was kind of saying is that, like, indies are doing really well on like XBLA and PSN, and the publishers aren't, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of the time, like, published games aren't. And if you think of like the big games on XBLA or whatever, they're games like Castle Crashers and Trials and stuff like that. They're quite like small teams actually working on them or whatever, and Braid and stuff and Limbo and all these kind of games, right? And you don't think of like Konami and Capcom and stuff.
Yeah.
So my point was, and what I was kind of trying to say is that, like, we were turned down by every publisher, and we thought that meant we were like fucked, right? And that there was absolutely no point in carrying on, because they knew best, right? And actually, my point was that, that they don't, right? And that actually small teams should kind of trust to themselves, and that I think, going, it's kind of what I was saying, was like going with a publisher, is kind of the end of a lot of indie studios, and it's that side of things that I was talking about that is slaughterhouse, you know. But the other thing I would say is that people don't really talk about PSN being good, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And Microsoft kind of only talk about those games that I just mentioned, which are like Castle Crashers and Trials and Limbo, which we all know have sold really well. But like the majority of games, I think, and like I had loads and loads of numbers with me that I've kind of gathered, don't do that well, you know, on XBLA. And that it is really tough for people. So I think that, like, my point was that there are other options, and people shouldn't just, like, believe what's in press releases or just take that as read. So we went with PSN on purpose because we thought it was a really good way to get our game out, and because it's, like, to get, you know, technical, it's the only way that we could, like, self-publish our game.
Yeah.
You know, because with XBLA, you've got to have Microsoft as your publisher, you know, and I think they're a good publisher, but they're still a publisher, right? And it means that, you know, they've got some say over your game, you know, and we didn't have a great, like, history with that, and we're kind of stubborn and, like, pig-headed, you know, and we just wanted to make our game. We kind of thought we knew best, or even if we didn't really think we knew best, we just knew the whole point of what we were doing was just to make something ourselves. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Do our own thing, right? And if you're not doing that, then it's kind of like, well, what's the point in any of it? You know, you're going through a lot of pain for it.
Did you guys have a backup plan if you weren't able to get on any of the consoles? Would it have been like a Steam release and like a PC release on your own website?
Well, we started off like totally naive, you know, even though we had worked in the game industry before. All we knew about from that was just programming, you know, like it actually wasn't about business or anything. So we were totally naive. We just started off. We suddenly found, oh yeah, like we need dev kits, and found that we couldn't get them. So we just started making like a PC engine, and I'd never really worked with PC before. We put together a PC engine. We did like a Linux version and a Mac version and stuff like that, just to make sure it was cross-platform. And then just begged to get like dev kits. And we got like a PS3 dev kit. So we just put it on PS3, and then we eventually got a 360 dev kit. We put it on 360, you know. And we just kind of kept all of those going, like broke our hearts trying to do it, because we just wanted our options open, and we didn't really know what the best way to do the game out was. You know, we were like, does anyone want any of these? So like, yeah, it wasn't that we had a backup plan. We didn't really have a plan most of the time. Like, we just had lots of backup plans.
Yeah, I guess backup plan kind of infers that you had a plan to begin with.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. So do you have a plan now in terms of sticking with PSN, or just do you guys have any thoughts about the future of, you know, PSN versus XBLA versus maybe iPhone and iPad devices?
Like, I think I'm going to this is a weird thing. Like, when I talk, it's, you know, with consoles, it's really difficult, right? Like, if you talk to any indie developer, they all have had different experiences, so they just talk about things totally differently. Like, I talk to the Limbo guys, and they're like, you know, XBLA is amazing, Microsoft's amazing, and then you just talk to the next developer who's had some problems or whatever, and they're like, oh, Microsoft's terrible, XBLA is terrible, you know. So like, we only have our experiences to go on. So like, unsurprisingly, like, we really like PSN and we really like Sony. Like, we've you know, been quite happy. I think what's really surprised us is the like, this sounds like I've been brainwashed or something, but like, the PlayStation community is like really strong, you know, and really kind of got behind us. And when we said that we were like coming exclusively to PlayStation, or at least coming there first, right? People got excited about that and were helpful and supported us, spread the word and stuff. So we've been really like happy with that side of things, you know. And so we need to figure out like what we do next, because there still isn't really like a plan. Like,
yeah,
we should probably put Joe Danger out on loads of other platforms and stuff, but we're not really sure about that at the moment, you know. We're just kind of figuring out what makes sense and what we want to work on, because we're just like four of us, and we could just spend all our time porting the game, and that wouldn't be, you know, very creative.
Yeah, that's kind of not why you went indie, is to port games.
Yeah, exactly. And if we did, we'd want to do it really well. Like, we'd want to add something or have something that we're really excited about. You know what I mean? And whenever we talk about like porting, we never talk about port and put it out on whatever. We talk about like, wouldn't it be awesome if it was on PC and it had this type of sharing and it had this type of leaderboard or whatever, you know? And I think like when you talk to most indie developers, that's the way they kind of think.
Yeah.
So like, people tend to go, I've got this awesome idea for an iPad or whatever. You know, and I think like Joe Danger, as it stands now, totally wouldn't make sense on an iPhone or an iPad. But there's like games that I would like absolutely love to make for those machines.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm not the best person to talk to about whether they would sell well or whatever. I just think like, wouldn't this game be awesome? You know.
Yeah. So there's some tech questions from the chat. The first one is, did you guys use a physics library, or was it all done from scratch?
This comes into us not having a plan. We wrote our own physics, and then we thought when we came to do PS3, we should use like bullets, because that was supposed to be really optimized and stuff like that. So we put that in. Like in our PC version uses another, you know, our own physics engine, which is really weird. Like, technically, everyone knows that's a really stupid idea. And then we like actually found the, you know, for what we were doing at least, ours was, you know, as fast as bullet, and we shouldn't have really bothered. But like, we found it fine to work with, so we used that. You know, that's what's in the ship game.
Yeah, and there's another question, sort of, was everybody on porting duty after you guys, I guess, kind of went for PS3, or was somebody always working on gameplay in like a more platform agnostic environment?
No, it wasn't like that at all. Like, we, like, this is how the game got ported. This is mad, right? We got like a PlayStation dev kit, you know, but we didn't have any like licensing agreement, or we didn't know how we were going to release on PSN, or we didn't know if we were or anything. So we just decided we'd keep going with the game and get like a demo together, because it was still in early stages, and we were like, we'll make what we've got much better. We'll add some levels, these features that we're really excited about. And that was totally the plan. And we were just going to leave this dev kit sit for like a month, you know, so we knew what we were ready to do or whatever. Like, the game didn't have a publisher. We were like, I have no idea if it'll ever come out on PlayStation. And then nobody could bear to leave the PlayStation just sitting there unboxed. So like, the first night I came in and just started unboxing it, and I sent like a picture on my phone to the others, and they all just came in, and it was like 11 o'clock at night or something. We just started porting it. We kind of stayed all night and like had Warframe running in the morning, and then that weekend we all just came in and like got, you know, sound working and physics and stuff like that. So you know, like I said, there was no great plan. It just kind of happened, and we were really excited about it. So it happened early on, and it happened like in this massive burst, you know. And then we kind of calmed down. We'd gotten that out of the way. We're like, all right, let's get back to the game now, you know.
Awesome.
That's a really weird phenomenon. Like, after this many TIG radios, and after having talked to so many people at GDC, there's like this weird thing that happens to all teams when a dev kit shows up. Like, you get this weird burst of energy, and you can go from feeling like shit to be like, oh fuck, we got a dev kit, time to make this work. It's just so strange, and it happens to everyone. It's like an excitement injection.
Well, it's like getting a new console at Christmas or whatever.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
as a kid, and you'd get a new console, and you're like, that's all you would play. You know.
Yeah.
Nothing to look in, or a new PC or something like that. So that's totally the way it is. Like we were just like excitable kids, you know. And it suddenly becomes real, because until that point, you just like, to a developer anyway, there's something very real about having a dev kit. Like I remember Dave just looking at it and going, we could like make a game now, you know, we could make a console game, technically, you know.
Yeah, even the most mundane things are awesome when you have new hardware. Like if you have a new computer, you're just like, look how fast I can open up, 10 Explorer windows. You're like, that's never a cool thing at any other time. Or if you have like a new phone, you're like, look at all these settings. I'm just kind of like browse around like the settings stuff. Like when do you ever just like open your phone up and like, oh, check it out, I could change the brightness. Like it's never exciting except in like that window of time when it's like new stuff. Oh my goodness.
So what's next? What are you guys working on now? How much can you say?
Like, we don't have some sort of press plan or anything like that. That's not why I kind of can't say. It's just I can't say because who knows how it's going to work out, right? And how the game's going to change and stuff, and how we're going to just abandon our ideas that we have now that we think are brilliant. But we're kind of, I guess, what I can say is like we wanted to do something more like, I guess more ambitious,
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of ideas that we had at the start that we just couldn't do because we were like, it's already madness trying to, try to break away and be a city developer and set up a company and stuff like that. But now we're kind of more, we're more settled and we're like, okay, we know we can make a game. We have dev kits, things like that. Let's just chill out and think about the kind of game that we really want to make, like with no kind of, not with no constraints, but like, you know what I mean? Like you're just like, okay, let's just go for this, these ideas that we've been talking about for so long, like those, right? And you kind of, that's the weird thing, making a game, isn't it? You kind of like start on something and you have one idea and that's the main theme of the game. Like to everyone, somebody, when we played with that toy, it's like you're making a game about a guy on a motorbike. And to reviewers and journalists and stuff like that, that's all they'll ever talk about. They'll just feel like, Joe Danger, the guy, game with the guy on the motorbike. Like, whose idea was that? How did that idea come about?
Yeah.
That's not what the game is. Like, the game's thousands of ideas, thousands of these, like, small ideas that kind of fit with the game, like gameplay, ideas for levels, ideas for controls, ideas for special moves, all that kind of stuff. That's kind of what the game really is to me, like it wouldn't matter to me if Joe was on a bike or if it was Joe, whatever. It's all those ideas. So I guess we have all of those ideas. Like any developer, you've got all those ideas all the time. But you've also got an equal number that like totally don't fit into your game, that you're making right now, and you just store them up. You're like, as soon as that game is out of the way, when Joe Danger was out of the way, it's like, finally, right, these other ideas, I'm also really excited about them,
Yeah.
You just kind of open this, almost this like, suitcase full, it's like,
How much freedom do you guys feel like you have from the success of Joe Danger? Like, do you have the sense that you can just kind of spend, 4, 6, 8 months prototyping stuff, or do you have more of a pressure, like of we have to make sure that our next game is kind of up and rolling soon? Do you guys feel relaxed, or do you guys feel a lot of sort of time pressure on getting project number 2 out the door?
I guess like we didn't have a publisher, so we kind of never had milestones or external pressure, except running out of money, I guess.
Yeah.
And we've kind of still got that problem. Like we'll run out of money. But yeah, definitely it helps that Joe Danger is so well, and is doing okay. But like I think we're quite hard on each other, in terms of like like just driving each other on and whatever, you know what I mean? Like, so I think that's where the pressure comes from. Like we work as a team, you know, and there's a kind of there's a pressure there in that, like, if I just started slacking off, everyone would know. And if I just went off on one with some little idea that, you know, only I was interested in, everyone would know, because we work together, because we're like always around each other's desks and trying stuff out and things like that. You know, we don't tend to work with just our headphones on or whatever. So I think that's where the pressure comes from, and I think we feel pressure now, weirdly, to like do something to kind of, you know, follow up what we've done, and to like, it almost justifies what we've done, you know, like, I mean, we spent 2 years making this game, right? And if that's successful, then we don't want to just piss that up a wall, you know. We need to do something legitimate and like have something. We just want to, as well, when you've got an idea, you're just like, I want to show someone that idea, like, as soon as possible. I want to be able to show it. I want to prove to myself and to everyone else and the guys that I'm working with, this is like a good idea, you know. So yeah, actually, weirdly, I feel loads of pressure to do that, you know, like in a good way. Like,
I think that makes sense.
like a drive, I guess.
So what was your take on the whole game length issue? I know that you actually had a blog post that you posted, kind of with, you know, chiming in. Do you think that, just sort of at a meta level, do you think that kind of unified developer blog post storm actually works in terms of changing people's opinions, or do you think that it's, you know, not that effective, or just like, what's your take on the whole thing, basically?
Like, you know, the idea, they're changing people themselves, changing like human behavior is like, it's beyond like not just blog posts, but like it's beyond a lot of things, you know? like when I was a kid, like I cared how much I paid for a game, you know. Like we announced like a trial version of Joe Danger and a patch that adds loads of features today and loads of stuff, and you know, 1 in 20 comments is somebody just going like, I love the sound of this game, but $15, you know, are you kidding me? That kind of thing, you know. There's probably nothing in the world I could do that would change people from thinking that way, you know. And I think that because when I was a kid, I thought that way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, at least, I think most people did, right? Like, you spent, whatever, I spent like a whole year saving up for Street Fighter 2, you know? There was a serious amount of money, and money meant something different to me then. So I don't think you can, you know what I mean? It's like,
definitely.
a blog post about racism or something like that, you're not going to be able to change it, right? But you can change people, you can make people think about it a bit more, and people talk about it. Like, even the people who are writing those blog posts are changing their opinions. They're writing them like I found I did,
Yeah.
you know? So, like, I think it's really important. I don't think you can, like, say, we'll have a blog day, right, and we're going to get this issue sorted out, you know?
Yeah.
That's, like, not going to happen, you know? I think we would need to resort to, like, something stronger, maybe violence of some sort.
Just gather addresses. Yeah, I mean, personally, I think that
I've been saving IP addresses for a long time.
I should provide a service to look up addresses based on IP addresses.
Yeah.
I'll make a lot of money. Yeah, I mean, like, personally, I feel like the usefulness of that discussion was contextualizing game length at all. It's like the important question is what is not how long are games. The important question is, well, why are people playing games in the first place? And I feel like the effective blog posts are the ones that, like, well, you know, when you're older and you have responsibilities, you might be playing games for very different reasons from when you're young and you're just trying to, you know, find an escape. Like, if you're trying to find an escape from something, I think game length is a totally valid argument. Like, if your goal is to escape your crappy life or escape your sort of mundane job or whatever it is, the longer the game, the better. But if your goal is to experience something, you know, varied or something new, but I don't know. I actually didn't come up with a post for the game length stuff, despite the fact that Blurst was probably well positioned to do it. I don't know. I just didn't have a very strong opinion.
Right.
But, you know, like, the other thing is that I've also kind of grown up where I'm like really passionate about this, that I like collected every star in Mario 64. I, you know, collected everything in Tony Hawk 2 and stuff like that, you know. And I think that was a valid thing to do, you know. And I know a lot of people don't agree with that. But like, not only did I enjoy them and it was entertainment, you know, it was a skill and it was something I was doing, and there was a feeling of achievement that I don't think is just totally empty, you know, and valueless or whatever. So I kind of like, I mean, it's like that's totally formative for me, and I feel like I, you know, got really passionate about games during that period. And I, like, as it turned out, I'm not a very good Street Fighter 2 player, but I thought I was, you know, at the time. I had, like, decided that I was awesome and that I was getting, like, to world championship level or something like that, you know. So that was, like a valid thing to do. Like, I really enjoyed that. But I also think it was, like, an experience that I have, just like normal real-life experiences, you know, and other skills that I learned to do or whatever. I think it's totally up there with those kind of things. And they couldn't have happened without length. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think it's totally valid that like the learning to master something is kind of a useful generic skill, even if what you're learning to master is, you know, all the stars in Mario or whatever. I feel like that level of completion and that level of mastery can be carried over to other things. It's like you're basically building discipline at some point.
Yeah. But I think like when I was playing the top end of those games, I feel like I was learning a lot about game design, you know?
Yeah.
Like that was my like school, you know what I mean? And like I reference that kind of stuff all the time, and I think about it all the time, you know. And the kind of enjoyment that I had from it as well, but also you kind of go along with the game. Like if you play, I know I keep referencing games like Mario or whatever, but like if you play Galaxy, you know, I think it really leads somewhere, you know. And towards the end, you're like, all right, that's clever. That's a clever little twist on that, you know, and that's interesting. And that, you know, and you go on this journey with it. You know, and there's other games, right? There's like Oblivion and stuff like that, where I feel like I've been on a journey and through experiences. Like I don't often get time to play games like that, but when I do, you know, I not only enjoy it, but I feel like it's some sort of experience, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's great that you can kind of walk the possibility space of all these design systems, especially with the games that, you know, try every possible twist.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of that. What? So I was playing something recently that did that, and I forget what it was.
Something here.
Yeah. Anyway.
Turok.
Yeah, I was playing Turok Dinosaur Hunter. I was hunting some dinosaurs, and they really explored every possible way which to hunt dinosaurs. Gun, fist.
There's like 10 really unique guns in that game that have never been in another game.
I cannot tell
to its credit.
I cannot tell if you're serious or not.
Have you played it?
Not really.
Oh, okay. No, yeah. I'm being totally serious. Like I only brought that up as a joke because I found a weird PC build of it that I've been playing the last couple days, and it's surprisingly clever for a 10-year-old game.
Oh, it's 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I mean, 10 years ago was like, I mean, Christ, that was 2000. That was like the PSX era already.
Oh yeah, no, that's right.
That's heading towards PS2 era.
13.
Yeah, it's old. So I mean, yeah, what are your favorite old games? I mean, you've mentioned Mario, which I think is a great classic.
Yeah, I mean, I was into like a lot of games. You know, that's probably why I get passionate about like, you know, game length. Because if I'm wrong, then I like had the most misspent youth. You know, because I played a lot of games. You know, yeah. I mean, I was like kind of a big console game player, but also a big PC game player. You know, which is like the worst thing you can do, because I just had a non-stop feed of games. Like I was massively into Quake, you know, and I was massively into Doom, Civilization and stuff like that, but also, you know, Tony Hawk and like Roll Cage and things like that, you know, just like, and all the Nintendo stuff, you know, Mario Kart SNES was like this huge game.
Oh God. We played a lot of Mario. Like I've beaten Rainbow Road 150cc with a small code. We played a lot of Mario Kart SNES, like entire summer. We even did a
There was
thing.
a game where I thought I was like the world's best, and then you meet people.
Yeah.
They also think they're the world's best, and you're like, one of us is going to come out of this wrong.
Yeah,
They're always me.
in Mario Kart SNES, I can actually dodge red shells because when you jump, for the brief
Yeah.
moment you're in the air, the red shell stops tracking. So you can actually dodge red shells that are locked onto you if you jump at the right time.
Yeah.
And it's totally intuition. Like you're not actually calculating. You're like, oh, I can jump now. It's just you just kind of jump habitually, and like the shell misses. You're like, what the fuck just happened? You're like, yeah, take it. No, I played it.
When I was in uni, I used to like everything got decided with Mario Kart. Like the other guys that I lived with, we had all grown up playing Mario Kart. And we all thought we were amazing at it or whatever. So every time we had a decision to make, like whose turn is it to make tea, like first we do the wash up. Bin day, every bin day, we'd have to have this thing where we just have like a Mario Kart off,
Yeah, or
doing it. The bigger the job, like the more rounds we play.
yeah, or if two of you were in love with the same girl, whatever the issue might have been.
A day solid play.
Yeah, that was fun when I went to college in the fall of '98, and a lot of the games back then had multiplayer, but not necessarily internet multiplayer. So there really was a lot of that. Like everybody showing up at college is like, "Hey, I'm the best Warcraft 2 player from back home," and so the other guy is like, "Hey, I am also the best Warcraft 2 player from back home." You would battle, and you would be like, "Oh, wait a minute, one of us is a lot better."
Have, like score tables as well. So you were like, I am amazing at Pac-Man or whatever, because you had played it in your arcade.
Yeah.
Where, like, no one else played it.
Yeah.
Like, wait, there's a fifth level,
When you're the only name on the high scoreboard,
Yeah,
the Boys and Girls Club.
I was actually on top of a lot of these games when they came together. Like it turns out that I was the best Warcraft 2 player in my college from all of our high schools that fed into it. Whatever. Yeah. Next time we're at a conference together, we should get a room with like Mario Kart SNES. Just like straight get drunk and throw down.
And some mushrooms.
Whoa!
For the record, I can also dodge red shell.
Oh, yeah. So we used to do this thing where we would start Mario Kart SNES games, and you actually can have red shells orbit someone if you do a power slide and then throw the shell like kind of perpendicular to them. So we used to start the game with handicaps where like you would have two red shells orbiting someone, and they'd have to start out that way. Oh man, no, there was because I actually had two brothers, so we would just play competitive games for an entire summer vacation or whatever. Also played a lot of it.
I had an older brother, and I think those were my favorite games, things like Micro Machines and stuff like that, But I was into everything, like, even games that really should be, like, before my time, like Elite and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I kind of, even now I go back, like, last year I got, like, a Neo Geo Pocket Color or whatever, off eBay, and just grabbed a load of games for that, Yeah, like, massively, like Dreamcast. I have almost every game that was released on Dreamcast kind of thing.
Nice. Yeah.
But like,
Dreamcast.
I don't have the time to play them, I guess, which is where the game length thing comes in.
Yeah. Childhood. Wish I played games now. I don't really play games with my daily schedule doesn't really involve like sitting down and playing a game for 3 hours like it used to. I don't have the stamina anymore. Like when I play a game for half an hour, I have to stop and like do something else because I just get bored with it, tired with it. I don't know.
I'm still fine. So
I'm old. How old are you, Sean?
I'm 29.
Okay, because I'm 30. I'm just trying to place all of your like stories in history.
are the other guys roughly the same age?
Yeah, we're all actually, within a few months of each other, weirdly.
Wow, yeah, you guys really are a hive mind.
Yeah, exactly. We all, like, weirdly started making games at around the same time as well. So we were like, I'm from Ireland, and so, okay, Dave and Grant were making them together or whatever, but Ryan was somewhere else. But I think we tracked it back. We all played roughly the same games when we were kids, watched the same cartoons, into the same films. It's a bit odd.
That's right.
It's a bit interesting.
Sweet. I want to go play Mario Kart. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sean.
Yeah, let me quick wrap this up. It's special thanks to our guest Sean Murray of Hello Games, Joe Danger. TIG Radio is put on by Matthew Wagner, Ben Reese, and Tommy Reffinis. Tommy's crunching on Meat Boy and is not available. He's asleep. TIG Radio theme song by Danny Baranowski. TIG Radio website by Kyle Pulver. TIG Radio is proudly sponsored by absolutely no one, and Cactus should be on next week. Later, guys.